You know, the passage of time may come for us all, but the abyss of time is reserved only for God's strongest soldiers. And honey, we got a big storm coming. What an honor to finally say thank you Atlas and Sega for sponsoring this video and providing the review copy. Y'all better be saying thanks to them too, cause this is how getting a timely video for once. But let's get to business to give you all the lowdown on Persona 3 Reload episode Aigis, available now on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. By the way, if you want to see my review covering the base game first, it's on the channel now. Check it out. I yap a lot, but to get edumacational for the need-to-know people, what the heck is this thing? So episode Aigis, aka The Answer, is an additional 30-plus hour post-game challenge dungeon DLC with major story closure for the characters. The expansion pass also includes a set of background music from Persona 4 and 5, along with some new costumes. But the meat and potatoes of this DLC meal is The Answer. You see, back in the day, this is what separated Persona 3 from Persona 3 FES. The Answer was added to the original re-release and has since taken the mantle of the definitive old-school version of P3. Funny enough, Reload not only remade Persona 3, but also remade how Persona 3 was originally released, with The Answer coming out after the initial launch, except now it's just a DLC and not a whole other re-release. For now. Although, leading up to the launch of Reload, it was reported that there were no plans to have The Answer alongside it, but the sales and enthusiasm for Reload gave Atlas the green light that it was worth pursuing. And it makes sense to see if people even wanted The Answer before remaking The Answer, because it's always kind of had a weird standing with fans. P3 has a rock-solid, impactful ending by itself, but The Answer provides a lot of clarity and closure to any lingering questions. So the story was relatively praised at the time, but it came at the cost of being a grinding endurance test. The OG Answer makes it very apparent it's a combat challenge dungeon crawling experience on top of being a profound epilogue. I mean, just look at Aigis' new getup. If you zoom in, you can even see a Lockheed Martin sticker on there. But a common thing heard around OG P3 fans is, yeah, I played The Answer. Never beat it though. A lot of that general sentiment can be attributed to the repetitiveness and rigidness of the original's combat, and when the OG P3's ending is pretty satisfactory for most players, that extended grind feels pretty darn abrasive after a 100-plus hour main game. Now, episode Aigis is a remake of The Answer through and through. The length is similar and the story beats are basically identical, but the devil is in the details, and also in the Velvet Room. Hey there, Satan, how's it going? In my Reload review, I praised the gameplay for being fun and smooth with a fast sense of progression, so episode Aigis benefits greatly from those enhancements considering it is so combat heavy. It makes a world of difference actually, because the grind is in full swing here, but now it's the good type of grind, like we about to hit the dance floor at an open bar wedding kind of grind. But if you're here for the story, and trust me, if you have any investment in this cast, the story is worth engaging with, easy mode will be your friend, because it is difficult to be a pro gamer extreme when you're crying so hard you can't see. But what kind of plot are we dealing with here? Well, episode Aigis, aka The Answer, is just that, the answer to what the hell happened at the end of Persona 3, cause let's be real, the pieces are there to put together, but it's not exactly clear what happens based off of the tone alone, especially for new players. Of course, it's not that literal. The title is more of a catch-all for a lot of life's big existential uncertainties, but ironically, the answer to the biggest lingering question for the ending gets answered pretty quickly, only for things to immediately spiral into a Groundhog's Day time loop where the Thieves members are trapped in their dorm, Aigis gets a cryptic robot sister with attachment issues, and the gates of hellish heaven pop open in the lobby. So it's just Aigis, the gang, Metis, and an abyss of time between them. Symbolism! This epilogue is here to serve as an absolute clear-cut concluder that complements the original's ending while giving the characters one last moment to shine and grieve, featuring iconic bits like sushi dinners, quality bonding time, live attitude checks, existential dread, traumatic flashbacks, and women in STEM. Naturally, Aigis gets to sit in the blue main character chair for this, as the P3 protag is busy out getting eggs, hamster food, and chocolate milk. But the story does not pull punches. This is very much an extreme grief counseling pressure cooker with the goal of confronting some of life's heaviest emotions. Aigis is like giga-depressed throughout, desperately trying to hold herself together to solve the time loop mystery, and similar things can be said for the rest of the cast. The vibes are, intense to say the least, with Junpei cracking wise to break the tension.
Time to get her done, you know?
Now, the episode structure boils down to descending the abyss of time, which is basically an inverted Tartarus 9 circles of hell style. You enter doors, go down floors, kill enemies, grow stronger, jam out, and gradually chip away at the mystery of your circumstance via character flashbacks of events mentioned in the base game, but never seen to this extent. These are interesting, insightful moments, as they show more of the emotional turmoil the Thieves members were experiencing leading up to the main story, which better defines their general motivations. Now, this is a hunky DLC, clocking in at a solid 30 hours for myself, but the plot does that thing where the characters acknowledge what they are doing is low-key, tedious, and repetitive, since you're basically record skipping on the same Shadow Carnage song and dance. But here we are, still doing it, and going through the motions. However, there are new character moments similar to Reload where you can take a break to do some mundane dorm activity. Once again, these are very cute, subtle bonding instances, and they are just handed to you. They only trigger if you unlock and recover special items during your descent. The cast is out of fighting shape from their last endeavor, so these little hangouts re-unlock their personality combat perks, and I'm all about that narrative reinforcing the gameplay, so it's a smart inclusion. Ultimately, these hangouts are short and sweet, but they do break up that grind tedium, which feels really necessary here. The general time sink is worth it for the ending though, as it goes all out and puts its best nub foot forward to deliver some gut-punching sequences, cause stop fighting! You're tearing this family apart! Seriously, there are some segments that had me wincing in agony because I love these characters so much, and they are going through some palpable pain here. Now, in the case of directly comparing and contrasting versions, there are some minor omissions and adjustments in the script that reduce the friction between the cast, which adds to the characters' general likability, but it makes their internal emotional conflict less evident. Not really a noticeable issue unless you have the original fresh in your mind, but they do shift the character's arc trajectory a bit. Basically, how do y'all like your Yukari? Hard or soft-boiled? You know? Regardless of those differences, though, with the visual bumps, passionate vocal performances, and prominent thematic undertones, episode Aigis is definitely hitting differently than before, but it's arguably hitting harder in most instances because of the remake treatment. And like I mentioned before, the gameplay benefits the most from the remake treatment, cause oops, it's Tartarus 2, another one, featuring sand. The bulk of episode Aigis is combat-focused, but when you have all of the flow and functionality of Persona 5's gameplay, plus the power of the cast Thieves, it's an almost zen-like experience min-maxing your way through the abyss of time and throwing fusion frat parties in the Velvet Room. Combat is fun, flashy, personalized, and strategic. With the additional Arcana perks, items, monad passages, level jump clocks, Fuka abilities, and quality of life options, you will have all of the flexibility and control to make your descent a relatively pleasant time. The repetitiveness is very apparent though. The new environments are lush and vibrant, but these are the same enemies from the base game with different color palettes, and the new zones are eventually also repeated. Like, I could not tell you the difference between Kana and Judica. I just know one's got tougher enemies than the other. In fact, there are no uniquely designed bosses until the ending sequences, which are very cool and worth it, mind you, but you really gotta work your way up to that finale. Also, since this is a combat challenge dungeon, this is the right level of hard, y'all. I beat Reload on hard mode and low-key wiped the floor with those fools in a min-max satisfactory way, but I played episode Aigis on normal to gauge the difficulty, and it sufficiently slammed my dough in, to be frank. Thieves may be a trap card nuke that can get you out of a tight situation, but enemies are smarter with beefier stats and more fortified resistances, so even with all of your extra firepower, it's an even playing field, okay? You will be rinsing and repeating battles, but you gotta pay close attention to what you throw out because it can quickly come back to haunt you. They also included some of Elizabeth's requests from the base game. This adds a little extra something to reward your grind progression, but it's mainly here to act as a level vibe check before you can take on
Ravage them!
So as you can see, Joker is here now. Kind of expected considering the Super Boss precedent, but to dive into some gamer discourse for a sec, I saw some digital groaning on my feed when they made the Joker announcement, mainly from Persona 5 popularity fatigue, but having him here is par the course for these things, y'all. It is very much an Atlus tradition to have a previous pro tag come back as a super boss. Persona 3 and 4 pro tag made it into Persona 5 Royal, and then you got other examples like the Demi Fiend and SMT5 and Digital Devil Saga. Joker's inclusion here kind of goes goes full circle if you think about it too. Persona 5 wouldn't exist without Persona 3's success, and Reload is the way it is because of Persona 5's influence. So naturally, here comes Cameo Queen Joker to complete the ritual of max P5 milkage. Truly, Persona 5 is suffering from success in the eyes of some, and I low-key get it. The inescapable Phantom Thieves' prominence can seem a little suffocating at times, but fear not, y'all. The cycle will eventually continue anew when you are begging the P6 Protag gravy train to get out of your view. And speaking of views, let's take a look at the sights and sounds of episode Aigis. Now, I've talked about the Third Eye Ultra View comparison conundrum in my Reload review, and there are differences for sure. The animated opening, for example, is serving a separate flavor, but if you're an enjoyer of those red, white, and blue popsicles, you're gonna feel right at home. Ultimately, things are different, but familiar. The color facelift definitely has an effect on the general atmosphere, though, but it's still really good eye candy that carries the story to the same impactful conclusion. However, one of the major animated cutscenes is considerably less morbid and raw from the OG answer, which hits a totally different vibe altogether. But again, this is a Third Eye Ultra View insight that most players will be blissfully unaware of. But if you do know, oh, you will know, because it's very noticeable. Overall, the presentation quality is indistinguishable from Reload's glow-up, but the overlays and menus reflect the narrative changes, cause look at my girly pop floating in there. Gets her own menu and everything, and get a load of that stellar color theming too. Oh, it's good stuff. Now, I'm a big fan of the crisp and vivid facial portraits as well, but I think Aigis needed a few more sad expression variations, cause she is sad for a lot of this, and I don't know if they're going for that monotone apathy, dissociation, stuck in the void kind of sad, but that's what they're giving me with this constant somber side-eye. Basically, Aigis' vocal performance is doing a lot of heavy lifting here when her expression is kind of stuck like this, and similar to how I felt about the base game, the voice work is still top tier and elevates the story to a new level of emotional intensity and occasional hilarity.
Hey, I know we're not exactly best friends, but do you really have to glare? Like it or not, we gotta work together to get out of this. You, me, Aigis, everyone.
I'm not glaring.
What?
You're right. I was glaring.
But I do wish they went all out and fully voiced the little hangout sequences, because that's the time for the personalities to shine, and it would make the whole experience more audibly consistent. Music is still banging though, especially with the new tracks, but some of the mixes and production are, once again, wavering a bit from their original cuts. Although, I'll be real, y'all, unless you have those comparisons clean in your mind, then the differences will go unnoticed while you are bopping your head to the tunes. Music's gotta be one of the most subjective art forms around, and constant comparison is the theft of joy after all. So while I was vocal about my displeasure with some of the changes in Reload's OST, I can't say the same thing for the answer, because I don't have those tunes stuck in my mind to a subliminal level. Taking all of this at ear value, I'm still bumping this OST, y'all. It's vibes. Anyway, to wrap it up, I can say with my full breaded chest that episode Aigis kinda T-poses on the original answer pretty hard. Unless you are totally married to the atmosphere and performances of the original, no one in their right mind would choose to replay and beat the OG answer over episode Aigis now that it's an option. These substantial gameplay improvements are going to make all the difference for folks, to the point where the sentiment of "I played the answer but never beat it" will slowly fade away with new fans. Assuming y'all feel this DLC is worth the price point, of course. I'm not gonna force your hand. Make your own choices, damn it. But now the contents of episode Aigis can become a well-known, rewarding epilogue that sends off the Seas cast with clarity, closure, and a new hope for living. So, once again, thank you to Atlus and Sega for sponsoring this video, and episode Aigis is available now on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Links below for more info, but until next time, gamers, toodles!